First, I just want to thank you for inviting me today to discuss this topic. Um, I know it's a controversial topic. A lot of time, like you always have to take a stand. Either it's with science or against science, and it's always controversial if you believe in it. Or, like you're not faithful, or you're not a believer in God. Or so, what I'm trying to do over here, I'm just trying to start first with defining who's God first, and then once we understand who's God and the scientific view of God, as- and then we can move on to the theory of evolution. Um, you're gonna find that once you define God the real way with the modern scientific theory, the answer for this controversial question, it becomes very, very easy actually. It's not complicated, and you don't actually have to be outside of faith, outside of religion, or not a believer actually to believe such thing exists. Uh, it's a little bit new view to God, to religion. So I just want to take your time to understand what I'm trying to explain over here. Um, so, so ultimately, like during the religion, there's two different views for God. There's one, what we call the traditional mechanical view of God, or Allah. So the traditional view, it's always you imagine God as a mechanical creator. So what it means a mechanical creator is like a craftsman who built a chair, or who imagined God as a separate entity who created the universe as a clock, and then he stepped away 13.5 billion years ago, and then this whole universe is working like a clock with all this science, physics, and everything that's input. But this traditional mechanical view of God, it poses some serious problems. First, it makes God as a distant entity. So, like as an entity, every time you ask any of you right now, where's God? So always we imagine like he's a distant entity. He's like a different galaxy. He's very far. It's not close to us. And also, it limits God to a specific time during this 13.5 billion years that created the universe. So it will limit him in time, and it will limit him in space. And then the other thing is like this mechanical view of God, it portrays the creation as something independent that runs in its own. And it also reduces the divine action to kind of like God that occasionally he intervene in this world. And a lot of time we say why he's not even intervening with all this wars and everything else, all this mess that's going on around the world, why he's not intervening. So this mechanical model, this is what's creating all this debate between science and between religion. And this is what's creating this, if you want to call it separation between science and religion. So there was an alternative view of God, God as a fabric of existence. So this view, I'm not the first one who came up with it. A lot of Sufis, uh, what we call in Islam like Arifin, they came up with this view. They look at God as a not separated from existence. They look at God as the existent himself. And they call it then a lot of time as unity of existence. So this view, what we call like أينما تولوا فثم وجه الله. So this view that sees God in everything, sees God as an ocean of existence, an ocean of being, and everything arises from Him and goes back to Him. No, but I'm gonna explain it now. I'm gonna explain what's the view in Islam and other religions, and then I'm gonna see if the modern science that we have right now it proves this theory more or proves the mechanical theory more. Okay, so. Uh, so whenever God he says like Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, so we start from this ocean of existence and we go back to this ocean of existence. So a lot of time we think of this word as whenever somebody dies, goes back to God, or ruhu, or his soul goes back to God. But the modern science right now is trying to explain it more, and it supports that view that everything starts from this ocean of existence and everything goes back to this ocean of existence. So instead of saying from dust to dust, you're saying like from like atoms to atoms, or from these atoms to that quantum field, unified field of existence. So this is a point of view that God as an ocean of existence. It's not only pertaining to one religion. And if you really deeply think about it, it unifies all religions together. Like Jesus, a lot of time talks about it as a kingdom of heaven. Buddhism, they describe that source of creation as emptiness. And Hinduism, they describe it as Brahman. Sufism, they call it as fana, or going back to God, or dissolution into God. And Judaism, they call it Ein Sof. And then with the modern physics, they start talking about unified field of existence. So what we're gonna try to explain right now, how does that modern science, it goes along with this view of God, like God is the ocean of existence. It's not just a mechanical entity who created the universe and he stepped away like some like far galaxy. So it's as simple as that. Once you understand this point of view, you will be able to answer the theory of evolution very easily. And you're gonna find that doesn't go against anything that you believe on. So with the modern science, this is for the last 100 to 100 years. You can see the nature, us, the tree, everything in nature, the universe, goes back to those molecules. And these molecules goes back to the atoms. And the atoms goes down to something what we call the string theory. So the string theory also goes down to this unified field of existence I call that quantum field. So as you see, like even though you have like trees, humans, everything that looks different on the surface, but if you keep going down, you will get to a point where everything is the same. Everything is this quantum field of existence. So this is the same theory that everybody was talking about. That Jesus was talking about as kingdom of heaven. The Buddhism they call it emptiness. That Hinduism also they call it Brahman. With Islam, with Sufism, they call it fana. So this is a quantum field of existence. So most of those, and now you can ask the question, how did they came up with this conclusion like 1,000 years ago? So this is more like experiential kind of things. This is when you can start talking about the true self, the ruh, and how did this individuals, which we call them prophets, or we call them enlightened being, how did they came up with that? How did they reach that conclusion that everything comes back to the same field of existence or the quantum field of existence? So now once we define God as the quantum field of existence, so God is not a separate entity. So everything that you see, the human, the trees, everything is comes from this ocean, from these atoms, and goes back to this field of existence. You as a human or anything cannot, like you cannot exist without God. So God is not something separate from you. So you need these atoms, you need this unified field of existence to be present. So now God is not like separate entity, it's your existence. That's why um, whenever they say like in Quran, Allah نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة. This is what they mean. There's one light, but this light it gives you like so many lights. It gives you like the green, all these colors of rainbow, but everything goes back to this one light. So this one light is, if you wanna explain it to the new generation or generation Z that you call, you can call them like this is a quantum field of existence. So in a sense, whenever you're talking about the universe, you're talking about the universe as a conscious, super intelligent universe. A lot of time, whenever we look at the universe, we look at it as an entity, doesn't have conscious, doesn't have intelligence, and this universe is separate from God. But if you go with this kind of theory, you can slowly start to understand that God and the universe are not like separate in a sense. I'm not saying like God is the universe. Uh, that's because of the short of the time we can explain why uh, the emergent idea of time, why there's time to begin with, and how come if the universe is what I call God, why the universe keeps changing. So that's a different discussion. We can do it later. But for now, just if you think about it a little bit, about like how everything goes down to atoms, everything goes to the same theory in the quantum theory. So overall, whenever we're talking about the divine, and we're talking about us as a light. So just in Quran they say Allah نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح. So now the best synonyms that you can explain to the generation that live in this age is the projector. So if you look at the projector right now, you have one light, but in the screen you see different colors. You see actions, you see trees, you see everything. So everything is a projection of God, in a sense. So whenever, like 1,000 years ago, the prophet he couldn't explain to them like a projector did not have this synonyms as projector. So that's why he said al-misbah. So for now, if you wanna kind of get this idea a little bit closer, you can think of as a projector. You have one light that giving you all these colors and everything. And this is with the modern science. So we go back to the theory of evolution. So how are we gonna connect all this discussion that we had so far to the theory of evolution? So, and what's the difference between the theory of evolution that Darwin supposed with theory of evolution that I'm supposing right now, I'm kind of proposing right now. So as we mentioned that all the universe has this quantum field or unified field of existence, in a sense, there's a conscious and intelligent universe. So with this understanding, evolution becomes much easier to understand. So once you understand the true nature of God, then evolution becomes much easier to understand. And whenever you talk about evolution, there's a couple things that misunderstood in all the religions. So whenever God said be and it is, kun fayakun. So first is the timing. Like how does God create? So if God wants to create like a humans, does he create them as a magic, like suddenly out of nowhere, you will have a human? Or since we discussed that everything in this nature is the quantum field and the science, the cosmic law, the gravity, all the science is actually a direct reflection of God. So if God wants to create a human, he will start with this organism, and then this organism will have this intelligent design and for evolution to become like a human. So, and whenever he said like he created the universe in 6 days, it doesn't literally mean he created the universe in 6 days. It could be like billion of years, could be billion of years, right? Because that unified field of existence is outside time. There's no time for, they're kind of like a stable, yeah, timeless. So since like God creates, it doesn't just create from love. So God is the actual woven in the fabric of existence, and and this organism, they have this innate intelligence in them that will help them um, kind of like a progress from unicellular organism to multicellular organism in the future. So Darwin, the way that Darwin proposed evolution, so we all can see that evolution is real and scientific, and they keep finding evidence of it. So you cannot deny it based on faith, based on because one religion said that Adam was created 6,000 years ago, and then you say that the science is wrong. So when you understand that science is God, and God is science, and God, when He created everything, He created through the cosmic law, created the chemicals, equation, through the math, through everything. So one thing that you cannot deny that. But what is Darwin proposing? He describing a kind of evolution that's based on random variation, based on natural selection, and survival of the fittest. So this is kind of evolution by random, basically. So whoever survival of the fittest will survive, he can progress, he becomes like human and stuff like that. So what I'm suggesting, based on the theory, based on the explanation that I discussed, that this evolution is not blind by randomness, it's not external evolution, and it's guided from within by the divine intelligence. So God or the divine intelligence or the superintelligence is not an entity outside guiding this organism to manifest or guiding this organism to have an evolution. It's actually the universe itself, this quantum field of existence, who's creating all these atoms, is the, if you want to call it a supercomputer, but it's the one who is driving this evolution, and he's the one who is increasing the chances for this organism to adapt and adjust with the environment and continue its evolution. So what we're proposing here, we're proposing that God moving into life itself, and adaptation is as inner guidance, and evolution is a divine creativity unfolding. So this is the difference between the Darwin theory of evolution with this, like what I call it, the manifestation theory, like with the evolution. So this evolution is based on internal intelligence. So the organism itself, the universe itself, has innate superintelligence woven into them. And God is actually the ocean of existence. So everything arises from Him, like the ocean, and everything goes back to Him. And this is an evolution by design. So that doesn't mean that survival of the fittest or by random. Actually, this is the divine Himself or God Himself that's guiding or that's doing this evolution from within those organisms.
Is the reality of existence.
Yes. So, as a final integration, God is not a separate from the universe in a sense. I mean, I know that may propose a different view from the mechanical view that everybody used to. And creation is not like at the point in time, like God created the universe 13 billion years ago, and now He's separated from it. And actually, there was an ayah in Quran said, like, in Allah yumsik samawat wal ard an tazula. And in that sense, that creation is happening in a blank time, actually. So time by itself is not fundamental to the universe. So time by itself, it comes in from the observer because we are observing the universe. That's why we have this sense of time. But the universe itself is constant, and this constant universe it keep updating itself, it keep refreshing itself in a blank time. So blank time is the time like
granular time,
yeah.
the least division in time.
Yeah, so it's like 1 with 43 zeros of a second. So the whole universe is coming in and out of existence, but that's a speed of time. So creation actually is not like something that came 13 billion years ago. So God is creating everything as we speak. So whenever you look at the flower, whenever you look at everything else, this is God still creating it as we speak. So it's an instant creation. So this is what you call kun fayakun in that sense. So He's always creating, but then there's another question arises like if the universe is constant, why we keep having everything that's changing? But that's kind of a longer discussion. What we want to just finalize and summarize this whole thing, we do believe in evolution, but this evolution is by design. That's guided by the superintelligence that's woven into the fabric of the universe, if you want to call it that. So that's it.
So for you, evolution is God's plan.
So actually, is God doing the evolution Himself? So it's not like He had a plan for evolution. So He is the plan. He's the one who's actually guiding this organism to get to more. So.